gentlemen, thanks Professor Mansfeld for the kind introduction. And it is my pleasure today to have been invited and to give this introductory lecture for this conference today. The topic ICT, Information and Communication Technologies and Tourism, is a quite challenging topic for quite some while. I saw that last year you had the topic of wine and tourism. Of course, it's hard to compete with the topic of wine. And although wine has, of course, a strong influence or a strong impact, at least on the single tourism, especially on the next day, perhaps, ICT had a very strong influence on the complete tourism industry over the last years, over the last decades. And therefore, I think it's a very interesting topic to talk about and to look a bit into the past on the one hand. So I want to give you an overview of past ICT applications in tourism and to look into the future and to see what are next revolutions, what are next open issues which have to be solved in this area of ICT and tourism. Okay, let's first have a look at the overall topic just from the tourist's perspective. So the first is what a tourist does is trip planning. He plans his trip. In the old days, what could you do as a tourist? You looked at travel plans, you looked at travel catalogs, at travel guides, at physical travel guides. You talked to friends, you talked to colleagues to ask them what is the best destination to go to. Or you looked into the big travel catalogs which you get from the travel agency and tried to find the right offer. Finally, you went to the travel agency and then did your booking with the travel agent together. Now, what can you do today? You see that it has dramatically changed. Well, yeah, there's a heap of online resources available at the moment. You can go to Wikipedia, for example, to WikiTravel, to get more information about a destination you want to travel to. Or you can look at destination-specific websites, destination management systems, how they are called, where you get more information about the tourism destination. You go to YouTube, quite famous at the moment. You can look at videos on YouTube to find out more about the destination. Then you can go to TripAdvisor. These are those travel review systems where you can get information from other tourists who have already been in this destination. You can get hints and feedback from them. And finally, if you want to do the booking, you go to an online travel agency or a travel platform, how they are called, or Porto, for example, and you book your holiday, complete holiday package. So you see has changed what the tourist can do in this phase. Next phase, on-trip. On-trip, in the old days, you got those brochures you can get at the hotel desk to find some interesting things in the destination to do. You can, of course, take a travel guide, a physical travel guide to run around, or you can use maps to navigate within the destination. Now, what can you do today? Of course, there are online, there are kiosk systems, there are self-service terminals available in destinations, and especially just upcoming, there are those mobile guides which you can use to get additional information in the destination. In the phase after the trip, in the old days, what you did is you told your friends, you told your colleagues about your holiday, what was good, what was not that good, to give them some hints. And you could, of course, show them your photos you did during your travel. What you can do now is you do more or less the same, but you do it based on IT. You go to TripAdvisor again, and you post your reviews there, so you can inform all the others in the world about what your experience in this destination has been. And you can share your photos on Flickr. So you don't take photos in a normal way, but you just load them up on Flickr, and you can share them with the complete online community, your photos of your holiday. So what we see is in this example, this introductory example, that ICT changed tourism quite a lot. All different phases of the trip planning and on-trip, after-trip are heavily supported by ICT, and the interface for the tourist is using has dramatically changed over the years. And thus we want to have a more detailed look, and I want to give you an overview of the different ICT applications which can be used in tourism and of the next steps which will be out there. Now first, in the first part, some facts and figures. The driving force for changes in tourism is still the internet, of course, since its uptake. So let's have a look at the internet penetration rates we currently have. So we see that the overall world average is around about 30% of internet penetration. But of course, the developed countries like US have 78%, so you have got quite high internet penetration already. Israel is well positioned with 70%. Europe depends, it's 58% on average. The more developed countries, they have got, like Israel, 70-75% of internet penetration. What you see is what is called the digital divide. You see that countries like Africa are lagging behind. they have only got 11% of internet penetration. So this is called the digital divide, where of course those people have not the same access to the internet than the rest of the world. So of course the internet can be used then for tourism purposes. Here we see the most important factors influencing travel decisions. So what are the people influenced by when they take a decision on a destination to go to? If we just concentrate on those factors which are information channels, then we see that the information on the web is the most important information channel at the moment. It's 22% influence on the travel decision. It's just the information you get over the web. Compared to the next is travel agency recommendations are just 8%, articles in magazine, newspaper 6%, and appealing advertising 5%, and TV, quite interesting, only 2%. This is mainly caused by the fact that TV news about destinations are normally bad news nowadays. So they are not encouraging you to travel to a destination. So you see, the information on the web is the most important source of information at the moment. 70 to 80% of users search by the internet when they start their travel planning, and they visit up to 22 different websites. So they look at a lot of different websites, so you see that the influence of the web is quite strong at the moment. Now the next step, what type of websites are most visited in tourism? So what are the most websites used for researching your trip? The first one, not astonishing, it's search engines, it's Google. So that's the first address people are going to. They go to Google and search for the right website they want to use. Then the next is quite interesting. You could imagine, normally you would say that intermediary sites should be the next step you go to. But this is not the case. The next sites are airline websites, hotel websites, destination websites. So the websites of the suppliers itself. They are the next level. And after that, on the third level, there are then the travel websites like TripAdvisor. We'll have more about this later on. And of course, then there are the other intermediaries, online travel agencies, and websites of high street travel agencies. Social networks are just coming up. You see they are still quite low, with 10 to 11%. These are social networks like Facebook, Twitter. They have not that influence at the moment, but of course they are strongly upcoming. Now if we look next, what are the most drivers of traffic? So what drives traffic to your website? If you want to get people on your website, where do they come from normally? Well, the first place obviously is Google again, is the organic search for Google. So the organic search means if you type in a keyword in Google and you get the normal search results. This is called organic search. So the organic search is the most important driver of traffic. This means for online marketing in tourism that search engine optimization, how it is called, so to make sure that you are found in Google on the first page, is the most important thing you can do about online marketing. If you are not found on the first page of Google, you're not visible to the people. You're not existing anymore. So you have to be on the first page. Search engine optimization is the most important thing you have to do. The second important is paid search. So it's again Google AdWords, most of you might know. So there's search engine marketing. You can pay for being listed on Google. It's a strong influence, so it is meaningful to invest money into that and to be part of this. The third one, a bit astonishing perhaps, is email marketing. Email marketing has a bit the smell of being old-fashioned, of being outdated, but it isn't. Email marketing has, especially in tourism, extremely high conversion rates. So you should consider email marketing as your online marketing strategy. It's still quite important. Then we have got social media marketing already on place 4, which is getting more and more important. Meta search, so Kayak is an example of that. So search engines for search engines, or for websites, so to say. And mobile marketing just coming up and starting to get more and more influence on the traffic on the internet. So to summarize again, the most important is search engine optimization, search engine marketing, email marketing. These are the most important parts you have to do in online marketing in tourism. Now if we look a bit more specific on e-commerce, so just if the online travel sales which are done online, you can see overall, not in tourism, that in 2012, as a forecast, there will be 1 billion online buyers worldwide. And in the B2C area, it will be 1.2 trillion US dollars revenue, which is made over this part. And in all domains, it's the same, that the B2B sector is 10 times higher than C2C. So you see here the figures are extremely high. Interesting is that tourism accounts for 25% of the online sales volume. And by this, tourism is the biggest segment in e-commerce. So it's the most important segment in e-commerce, tourism. There you see the importance of IT for tourism. Here we see some figures. This is the percentage of revenue made online in tourism. And there you see that in the US, we reach nearly 60%, which is an extremely high number. Nearly 60% of all bookings are done online. So you see that online is more important now than offline booking. So this is a quite important feature. There we see that IT has a strong influence on tourism. Now this has been the first part, just to give you an overview of where we are today, where we are now. Now in the next part, I will now like to give you an overview of past ICT applications in tourism. And what I did is I tried to identify some most important milestones which you can identify in tourism. Well, the first milestone, it's quite long ago. It's 1949, the invention of the CETA as a first information network. So CETA has been developed by 11 airlines, and the idea was to set up an information network to exchange passenger data between the different airlines or from the airline to the ground station in the different airlines, different countries. So this is quite early development. From a technical point of view, it has been the first package switch network, so not a fixed line where the information is transferred in one package, but information is split up in several packages and traveling over the web or over the network. And quite interesting, if you compare this, the ARPANET, some of you might know, ARPANET is the predecessor of the internet, has been invented in 1969. This means 20 years later than this CETA has been developed. So you see how early the development started in tourism, 20 years before the ARPANET has been invented. So tourism has been at the forefront of the IT evolution here. Well, the second milestone, most of you might know what comes next. These are the CIS, GDS in the 1960s, very important development. Computer reservation systems, global distribution systems are well known. Sabre was the first one, was developed by American Airlines and nobody else than IBM together developed this first CIS, this computer reservation system. And those CIS acted as you can call the backbone of the digital airline. So it was a main cornerstone of the development of the modern airline, IT-based airlines. The next step, GDS evolved from the CIS. It is not well known that the GDS have not been invented, not been pushed by the airlines themselves, because the airlines wanted to push the CIS. The GDS were pushed by government, by regulation. So the airlines were forced to integrate their CIS into one GDS to be comparable, to reach some level of market transparency. So it was an act of regulation to invent those GDS. Now those GDS are quite famous. They are big mainframe systems, at least in the past they have been big mainframe systems and extensive networks with remote terminals in the travel agency. And it's important that similar solutions have only been available in the financial sector. This is the only sector which has several similar big networks. You see in the right corner, you see, perhaps you can see it at least, how a GDS integrates several CIS, so to include all this information from the different systems in there. The left-hand side, you see a typical interface, so they're not looking like the interfaces today. They're a bit more cryptic, because the travel agency people, they know what to do, so they don't need a mouse, for example. They do it all by keyboard normally, so to be quite fast there. Now here's an example of Amadeus. It's Amadeus Germany. So here you see the structure, and that the GDS are an interface between the two sides, the suppliers on the one side and the customers on the other side. So you see there are big networks on both sides, so they include a lot of different types of suppliers. Here you see that they've got more than nearly 500 airlines, 50,000 hotels. They've got rail companies in, they've got public transport in, they've got events in, insurances in. So there's everything what you need. It's a complete travel shop, what they include. So there are lots of connections to the different suppliers, what the GDS are offering. On the other hand, to the customer, of course, the main customer is the travel agency. Of course, nowadays also the end customer, the tourist itself, but in the former times, it was mainly the travel agency who was addressed by the big GDS. So you see there are a switch between suppliers on the one side and customers, and they are the most important interface in tourism. Now, the GDS had a big influence on tourism because they reached something like market transparency, so that you can get access to all different services they had a very big influence on tourism, on modern tourism as we see it now. Now the next milestone, again, most of you might imagine, it's the Internet, World Wide Web, which at least came up in tourism around about 2000, where the breakthrough came of the Internet, where most of the applications were starting to come up. Here, a short statistic again. Here you see the uptake of the Internet, of the online travel market, where you can see that it starts more or less in year 2000 and then increases dramatically year to year and now reached this amount of 60% of the overall travel volume, which is executed online. So this is quite impressive features we have. So the Internet has a strong influence, obviously. Now these are the typical market structures we know from the past. So tourism has long value chains and fixed value chains, obviously, with the GDSs more or less in the middle, because most of the traffic is routed via the GDS. And now those structures were changed, of course, by IT, because when the Internet came up, everybody can now go into the Internet and can communicate with each other. So everybody can access everybody else, and of course, everybody can access the customer directly. This is an important point. So here we see something which is called disintermediation. Disintermediation is an important topic in tourism. It means that you have now direct access to the customer and you can bypass the next level of the value chain on the way to the customer. So there are typical examples of those. Most interesting, of course, it has been for those suppliers which have not been represented in the CRS GDS, like, for example, the small suppliers, the hotels, the destinations. For them, it was the first chance to get access to the customer directly. There are typical examples. Airlines, for example, they try to bypass the GDS. Although they are owners of the GDS, they try to bypass the GDS to get rid of them, to save some money, to save the commission costs they had, to go directly to the customer. An example was Opodo, has been invented by several airlines as an online platform for booking airline tickets specifically. Of course, the GDS themselves did the same. They tried to get to the customer directly, so they tried to bypass the travel agencies. Now, the example is Opodo again. Sounds strange, but what Amadeus did in order not to be substituted by the airlines, by Opodo, they took over Opodo and changed it to an online interface to their system. So now Opodo is an online travel shop, online travel agency, which is owned by Amadeus and which is replacing more or less the travel agency, the high street travel agency. Of course, there's another, now not only disintermediation, but also re-intermediation. Re-intermediation means that there are new intermediaries coming up, new software platforms like lastminute.com. There are a lot of other platforms like that. So there are new intermediaries entering the market, what is known as re-intermediation. So the market has got quite flexible. There are quite different distribution channels which can be used at the moment. Okay, these were the most important milestones in the past. And now I would like to continue with the milestones for the future. So I will try a prediction. I set some dates. Of course, the dates are not completely fixed, but it's just an impression, to give you an impression what will come next and in which time frame it will come. Let's first have a look at current changes in tourism. The Internet is still the driving force of change in tourism. And the Internet can be seen as a virtual marketplace in tourism. So there's, for the first time, there's no trade-off between the amount of information you can send to the customer and the amount of customers you can reach. If you think of a brochure had to be small, and you could, of course, send it to many people. Or a catalog is big, but you could only give it to a couple of people. So now you've got not this drawback between those two different dimensions, so you can reach everybody and can provide lots of information to everybody, to the complete world. On the other hand, the Internet as a medium combines different market functions. It combines information, communication, interaction, collaboration, transaction, all in one media without a change of media in between. And therefore, all this together, those two facts together, of course, increase the market transparency and leads to network effects. You can reach all people have got all information, so this reaches a level of market transparency, and of course has lots of implications which we see now. On the one side, there are structural changes induced by these changes, induced by the Internet. The first we already saw, concentration, specialization is obvious. Companies are getting bigger, taking over each other. Then we saw already dis- and re-intermediation based on this market transparency. Then there are new business models, new distribution channels coming up. Hotels, for instance, have several different distribution channels, how to reach the customer. And finally, there are dynamic markets possible instead of fixed value chains. What is an example of dynamic markets? Online auctions, for instance. You all know eBay. eBay is quite famous in selling tourism products at the moment. So it's an example of a dynamic market where there's no fixed value chain structures, but a completely dynamic market. On the other hand, there are behavioral changes induced by the internet on the side of the customer mainly. So there's an increased demand of the customer. The customer demands more information. He demands more products and better products. Yeah? He's getting more conscious about those things. He's less loyal. If you go to the internet, he will not take the same supplier every time, but you will get a new supplier all the time if you go to those big travel platforms. So you are less loyal than you have been in the past. You have got an increasing bargaining power as customer. And finally, this results in the idea of this customer integration. So up to now, the customer focus has been increased. Yeah? Websites got more and more customer focused, but now it's a shift of paradigm from customer focused to customer driven. So now it's not the supplier who drives the communication, it's the customer who drives the communication. This is the idea of customer integration, or what we know as social web, or Web 2.0. But Web 2.0 is not a good noun because it's a broad thing. Social media is a bit more specific on this area. Now, based on this, the next milestone is not astonishing, it is the customer integration. I put it on the next year because it's already there. We are in the middle of this revolution. We all know Facebook, Twitter, and so on. We are in the middle of this revolution, but there still needs a bit of time so that it really breaks through. Therefore, I put it into the next year. Now, what's going on there? If you look at this slide, you see quite impressive what happened in the last 10 seconds. What happened in the last 10 seconds? 118 items have been shared on Facebook. 8 hours have been uploaded on YouTube. There have been 16,000 tweets on Twitter, and 350,000 videos have been watched on YouTube. Quite impressive figure, so you see there is traffic, and you should be part of that. Here we can see that there are different websites, social websites coming up. They are popping up every day, so it's a big chaos at the moment of different sites. So we will just have a look at the most important ones. The most important one is the one part is review sites like TripAdvisor. Most of you will know TripAdvisor. It's a site where people can state reviews, can give feedback about their travel. They have got 45 million reviews at the moment. 96% are positive. There has been a fear that most of the reviews will be negative at the beginning, but this is not true. Most of them are positive. 85,000 destinations are represented and 474,000 hotels. So it's a quite big amount of information which is online there. You can do lots of different things. Important issues are online reputation management. This means you have to react on the user feedback. As a supplier, you have to react what the users say there. You should analyze what users are saying about your services. This is known as online reputation management. This is an open issue still because people are not doing enough in this area. The next thing is social media monitoring, to get hold of all the information which are on the different sites available and to analyze this information. So to look into this information to find out new knowledge which is inside this information. The impact is extremely high. We saw that it is on place 4 or 5 of the most important travel websites. So the impact of this will be the most important factor influencing travel decisions in the future, those review sites. They have got a tremendous impact. You see 87% of travelers say that reviews impacted their hotel choice in a survey, or 70% of travelers trust recommendations. It's a tremendous impact. Facebook is social networks. All you know Facebook. 600 million active users, 700 billion minutes per month are spent on Facebook. 50% are going on Facebook every day. It's a huge amount of users there. It's the most popular social network in tourism at the moment. Just 2 examples. You can do more or less, in the meantime, more or less everything you can do on a website. You can even enable reservation and booking on Facebook. But of course, the question now is what makes the difference between social media and your website? The most important point is that social media changed the way of online interactions. It's a very important aspect. So it's no longer push marketing where the supplier sends information to the customer, but it's word of mouth. The customer is informing himself in his social network. So the customer does no longer find the supplier by searching for him. He finds the supplier by others, by being informed by his social network. It's a completely different story now. We could say that B2C interactions between supplier and customer, they are moderated by C2C interactions. So this is a shift of paradigm here. You can see it here. Traditionally, the supplier pushes information to the tourist, and now he pushes the information into the network. But the important point is that the network then has to redistribute, has to forward this information to their network, and in this way you get network effects. Of course, this depends on the information you post into your network. If it's boring marketing stuff, nobody will forward it, you will not be successful. It needs to be interesting, authentic content which is forwarded by the people into their social networks. Then you get network effects and you will be successful on the social media. So this is a big potential, but it's a critical success factor to do it right. That's the reason why it hasn't had the big uptake so far, because lots of people are using it, but perhaps not properly, not in the best way. Okay, the second milestone, mobile services, will be 2015. So they are already there, but of course it still depends on the amount of devices out there. 4 billion mobile phones are existing, 1 billion smartphones at the moment, so quite big numbers. And you see quite interesting here, the statistic is the downloads of apps from Android and from Apple. So you see that this Android, the green one, will overtake Apple in the next 1 or 2 years. That's a prediction at least. And they will reach 100 billion downloads of apps by the next 4 to 6 years. You can compare this to McDonald's. It took McDonald's 46 years to sell the same amount of burgers. So you can see that it's quite big numbers which are here. Now here's just an overview from Amadeus for air travel. You can see that mobile guides can be used in all phases of the trip. Before the trip, on the airport, in the airplane, after the trip, and so on. So the tremendous impact. 73% of people in the world are subscribing to mobile services. And 16% of people already booked something via the mobile phone. That's quite interesting. It's not only looking for information, they are already booking via mobile phones. Okay, just to give you a short overview, what are the success factors of mobile services? The first is ubiquity. This means this anywhere, anytime paradigm. You have to provide information which are relevant when the customer is on the move and not when he's at home. Otherwise, you could use the normal internet services. So you have to be careful that you use this possibility, this potential. The next one is context sensitivity, the most important one. The information has to be adapted to the current usage context, to the user, to his device, to the time, to the location where he is now. This is quite important, otherwise the service won't be used properly. Then, of course, usability is important because the device is small, the time is limited. Fun and entertainment, hedonic aspects are important. Lots of people use mobile services just because it's fun to use them. You should take this into account when developing a mobile guide. And costs are important. Costs should be low on the one hand, but costs should be transparent. That's even more important. If you travel to a foreign country, do you know what will the costs be for entering a website? You won't. You won't have the roaming costs in your mind. So transparency is quite important for costs. Just a couple of examples. QR codes. I don't know who knows QR codes. They're quite famous now. You can enter a mobile guide just by scanning a QR code. You can draw a connection between objects and online content. Quite interesting approach, which is now coming up in Europe to use QR codes to get access to mobile devices. Okay, and now the final milestone. It's semantic web. Will be, in my perspective, the next milestone. 2020 is quite far away, some of you might argue, but in my impression it will take some time until there is a breakthrough of the semantic web, because it's a complicated technology, more complicated than perhaps mobile services or customer integration. So just a brief overview. The objective is that web content is not only understandable by human beings, but can also be interpreted and automatically processed by machines. That's the idea of semantic web. Sorry. You can look at it like this. There's a text of a hotel. This is a text taken from the internet of a hotel here in Haifa. Now you could say, okay, this is the hotel. You annotate the content with the semantic information. This is the hotel. This is a point of interest. This is a distance. And then by this annotation process, you can then enable powerful services. For example, you could now search for all hotels within a 6-kilometer distance to Bahia Gardens in Haifa, which you cannot do at the moment in Google, because Google hasn't got the semantic information. Or you could even generate new knowledge out of the existing knowledge by what is called semantic reasoning. You could, for example, conclude from the text that Bahia Gardens is near Mount Carmel, because you have this information in the text. You can generate new knowledge, so it's a quite powerful mechanism. What's the problem so far, semantic web? The problem is somebody has to annotate all the websites in the world. Of course, this is a nightmare of work to do, and therefore this is hindering the uptake of semantic web. So what we need is, to reach the breakthrough, that we need tools, mechanisms to automatically, or at least semi-automatically, annotate websites. This is the next important step, what we need in this area, so that it comes through. Okay, this was the idea of giving you an overview of different milestones, what happened in tourism so far, what will happen in the future. Now, to just shortly summarize it, we saw the most important ones in the past, we saw the most important ones in the future. The next one is customer integration. Open issues are there, opinion mining, sentiment analysis, all these areas of data mining to get knowledge out of this content. The second milestone, mobile services. Context sensitivity and adaptive systems will be the most important aspects where currently lots of research is going on in this area. And the third milestone, semantic web, where the semi-automatic annotation tools, mechanisms, are the next important research area where we need some more results to enable the breakthrough of the semantic web. Okay, I hope I could give you an overview of this challenging field of ICT and tourism. And if you're interested to hear more about that, there is IFIT, as already mentioned, the International Federation for Information Technology and Tourism. And IFIT is dedicated especially to this topic of IT and tourism. And IFIT is once a year organizing the ENTER conference, and the next one is at the end of January. So, of course, if you're interested, you're, of course, invited to come to this conference. It's a 3 days conference, just this topic, IT and tourism. So, thanks a lot, and I'm happy to answer your questions. Thank you.